Shalom Aleichem and welcome to Mochen Lahira Online Smicha. We have spoken a few times already about the importance and the greatness of the mitzvah of Milah. In one aspect, you see how important Milah is, that the Torah tells us that Milah is Doicha Shabbos. And Chumash Vayikra Pasuk Perek Yud Beis Pasuk Yud Gimel, it says, Vayayim Hashmini Yimel B'sar Alasoi, and the Gemara darshans that V'yoyim Hashmini Yimel B'sar Alasoi, the Gemara in Shabbos Daf Kuf Lamed Beis says, Afilu B'Shabbos, that even if it fell out and being Shabbos, Milah is Doicha Shabbos. Now, that's the simple, because it's the Yom Hashmini. That's the simple Gzeres HaKasuv. In Rishonim, there are reasons given why Milah is stronger than Shabbos. The Tosefta says, Mipnei shechayavim aleha kares la'achar zman. Rabbeinu Chanano Masechta Yuma Pehem at Beis says, because delaying the mitzvah of Milah, delaying Milah is a sakana when it's not done proper on time. So to prevent a sakana, you have to do it on the 8th day. And in other svarim, the Ramban says that Bris Milah is Ein La Hefsek Elamis, is a bris, a covenant that's everlasting. The bris of Shabbos, however, is only temporary. It's only for the day of Shabbos. So the bris of Milah is stronger. And in other poskim, it's brought that we find that in a certain way, the bris of Milah is stronger than the bris of Shabbos. Gedoyla hi Milah, because the mitzvah of Milah is so great. Nichrusu allow Yud Gimel brises. There are 13 covenants that were connected with the mitzvah of Milah. So it's stronger than the mitzvah of Shabbos, which we know how great Shabbos is. Now, a question comes up in Rishonim. Okay, we see how great it is, but we also know many other mitzvahs that should have been done on Shabbos, and yet the Chachamim come along and say you shouldn't do it because of a gezerah. We know Tchiyah Shofar should have been blown on Shabbos, but Shema Yavirenu Da'al Amis. So why aren't there any? Why isn't it? Don't we find the same chash by Milah that yes, it's important to do it even Shabbos, but mitzad gzeira it should be pushed off. So the Ritva in Maseches Sukkah Daf Mem Beis says Milah is different because just the very act of the Milah is a malacha, and yet the Torah says it should be done. So how could you take away? How could you take it away by saying Chsha Shema Yavirenu, by taking all the other things that we exempt, we take away in Shabbos? The actual thing itself is not a malacha. Now, which malacha would Milah be? Milah could either be chayvo, causing a wound, which is an extension of an Isser D'Oraisa. Some say it's goizes, koitzer, makabepatish, but the Torah says whatever it is, I want it to be done. So that overrides the mitzvah of Shabbos. Now, when it overrides the mitzvah of Shabbos, the discussion, as the famous saying in Chazal is, there's either hutra or dechuya. Dechuya means it gets pushed aside. Shabbos gets pushed aside, but not completely overruled. And therefore, anytime there's a shiloh or anything you could do to minimize the chilul Shabbos, you have to do it. However, some say that once the Torah says Vayayim Hashmini Yimel B'sar Alasoi, for the Bris Milah, it's like a Tuesday. Hutra Kol HaTorah Kula Legabe Milah, and it's many nafkaminas. A suffix is an nafkamina. The Chassam Sofer says that the Chassam Sofer in Shabbos Kuf Lamed Daled says that if the Torah was matir Milah completely, like for example by karbonis, we find even though you're shechting the carbon, you are allowed to do it on Shabbos. So once by items that a Torah permits a Shabbos, mechalulim Shabbos afilu b'svek sveka. So perhaps the same things by Milah. If the Torah says the Milah is allowed to be done on Shabbos, it's hutra legamri. Now, just like the Milah itself is doicha the Shabbos Milah, the actual bris Milah, all the things surrounding that are part of the procedure of the bris Milah are also doicha Shabbos. But the machshirei Milah, preparing the utensils, the needs you need to, the things you need to do to be able to make a bris Milah, that's not doicha Shabbos. Like a mashal, to prepare a knife or make a knife, or prepare the herbs, the medication, or whatever it is that could have been done before Shabbos, that's not Doicha Shabbos. So Milah is very important. It's Doicha Shabbos. But you must know, for a Milah to be Doicha Shabbos, it needs 4 conditions. Condition number 1, it's for sure, there has to be a child that's for sure mechuyev bebris Milah. For example, what's it coming to exempt? A nefel, a miscarriage, you cannot do it on Shabbos. Number 2, it has to be a child that you're sure it's a male. A tumtum, for example, it can't be done on Shabbos. Number 3, you have to be sure that the Shabbos is its 8th day. If, for example, the child was born Bein HaShmashis and the previous week, I'm sorry, you don't know if it's the 8th day or not. So then it doesn't push Shabbos away. And number 4, that you have to know surely for sure that what you're cutting is the arla that's mechuyev b'milah, because sometimes there are situations that the person could have 2 arlas, etc., etc. And in other words, it basically gets split into 2 groups. Three principles about the child, that it has to be a sure child that's mechuyev b'bris milah. It has to be a sure male, and it has to be, we know for sure what the arla is. And the fourth one is about the time. It has to be for sure 8th day. So Shabbos, if it's milah b'yom hashmini, Shabbos gets pushed away. Now, how is there an issue that you're not certain if it is Yom HaShmini? So it is, as I said, there's a couple exemptions. One of the exemptions is, forget about the Yom HaShmini. There's a discussion in the Gemara. It has to be a healthy child for him to be able to have a bris on Yom HaShmini on Shabbos. So in the times of the Gemara, a child that was born premature, there was, depending when he was born, it could have had a chazaka of a chai, or Rahman al-Tzan, a chazaka that it's not going to survive. But again, in the Achronim today, they say it could be a lot of that things changed, because today's days you can have a baby born very, very premature and put it into an incubator. So that's a discussion for another time, to make sure before you have a bris on Shabbos, you have to know if the baby is a very healthy baby and it's going to survive long enough that the bris should override Shabbos. Now, who are you allowed to do a bris to? Obviously, a frum yid, a yid that wants to be mekayim the mitzvah. There's a discussion in today's poskim, if it is somebody, a family that's not religious, and you don't even know if they're going to keep Torah and mitzvahs, do you have the right to be mechal Shabbos for them on to make the bris on the 8th day because you want it to be an 8th day? Well, perhaps for them, because you don't even know if they're keeping Torah and mitzvahs, maybe it should be pushed off. This is a big machlokes of today's poskim. The Shalos Shuvah Shevet Alevi, Shmuel Vosner, says if you know that by making the bris on Shabbos, you're going to cause a big chilul Hashem, many people driving, many people eating and cooking and all that. He held that you should push it off and not do it on Shabbos. The Tzitz Eliezer and many other poskim said no. At this point, you don't know what the future will be. At this point, you have to do what's right and do the bris on Shabbos. One of the great rabbanim in Yerushalayim paskined that it depends what type of chilul Shabbos will be done. If the chilul Shabbos will be done with the child himself, in other words, they'll be driving the child to shul, then maybe you should be machmer. But if the chilul Shabbos will not be done with the child himself, it's only a concern how the other people in attendance, or how they will get there, or whatever it is, then maybe at least the chiyuv on the child still stands, and it overrides any issue of worrying about chilul Shabbos. Another important case is only a child that was born a normal childbirth is the Daicha Shabbos. A child that was born through a cesarean is not Daicha Shabbos. And the reason is, the Gemara says in Meshech Shabbos, Daf Kuf Lamed Hey, Amar Rab Asi, Kol Shein Imay Tmei Alei, any birth that the mother does not become tamei due to the birth, does not get a bris l'shmini. Shenemar, because the Torah says, Isha kisazriya v'tama, then ubiyoyim hashmini yimel b'sar alasi. So this is a very important halacha. Only a normal childbirth, a regular childbirth is Daicha Shabbos.